Greetings, good storytellers. I am the Artful Narrator, and it is my privilege to welcome you to learning the tropes of writing. Now, today's episode is going to be a little bit of a throwback because my Blue Yeti microphone died, so while I'm getting a new one, I had to go back to the Samsung Go mic, the one that I used to record these trope videos when I first started. So I do apologize for that decrease in quality. But now, on to today's topic. Now, in the past, we have looked at the ways in which a writer can encounter a strange and perhaps even preposterous problem when it comes to figuring out how to solve the simple situation, the simple problem of what does your character say in a fantasy or sci-fi story when they need to swear. It's ridiculous, but it does just... There are some things that are so ingrained in our sense of place and of presence that hearing them said by an elf or an alien just seems strange. It takes you out of the moment. And another of these is descriptions of time. Now, this is something that is, again, so simple, but you find that it's very difficult to dance around it in a story because the most mundane conversations that your characters will have to both further the plot and add color to the narrative become difficult. Your character may say, let's meet at 2 o'clock and we'll have a nice, picnic on the beach. Seemingly inoffensive. But if that's an alien science fiction fancy beach, the 2 o'clock sounds a little bit strange, especially if this isn't a human who originates from our modern Earth. If it was in the Star Wars universe or something like that. And while you can, as I said, you can dance around this, you can default to expressions of, I'll see you around lunchtime. We'll meet at noon. I saw him last evening. Things like that. There are times where you need specific measurements of time, and this is where sci-fi and fantasy writers are faced with a problem. How do you come up with a new phrase that both sounds fitting to the story without sounding ridiculous? And it is a strange balancing act. It's just one of those things where if you hear it and it isn't quite right, all you're hearing when the character says that word is, this is alien and 5 o'clock. Gotcha. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, including on alien planets. Yes, I see what you're saying. Space Jimmy Buffett. Good. And if you do you. So, it is something that I've spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out for my own story. Now I have some examples of these. And I found 2 that serve different purposes and help to, facilitate this discussion. So now, the first is a description of time from a rather obscure but charming animated series called The New Adventures of He-Man. Now, admittedly, I was not a fan of the classic He-Man. I was a Thundercats boy, and I'm still a Thundercats man now. Thundercats, ho! Love that show, love it. But as I said, not much of a He-Man fan. But I quite liked I think it was 2003, I quite liked that remake, reboot, whatever it is. And I surprisingly enjoyed this very strange New Adventures of He-Man where he goes to an entirely different world and it's just him and Skeletor there with an entire new crew of heroes and villains having wonderful sci-fi adventures. And despite being quite silly, very entertaining. And I love the way that they depict He-Man conversing with the sorceress. It's just so beautiful and evocative, the imagery that it uses. So I absolutely love that. But now, I've gotten distracted. As I was saying, in this setting, they have encountered the same problem. This is an alien planet. It wouldn't make sense for them to use hours and minutes and seconds. So, what do they use? Well, they use telks, like, sen telks, things like that. And I would laugh every time they would say this. And now is saying telks more ridiculous than saying minutes or seconds? On its face, no, but it just sounded so funny to me. Because every time they said it, all I heard was, as I said, alien minutes, alien seconds. I don't know. Oh, it was just kind of beautiful. But on the flip side, you have a show, Transformers Beast Wars. Now, admittedly, I am biased here because as much as I enjoyed The New Adventures of He-Man, I love Beast Wars Transformers. It has aged terribly. It has aged so bad with the CGI. But the storytelling, the characters, it's still so good. So good. And in Beast Wars, they being, as they are, Transformers from the planet Cybertron, wouldn't make that much sense for them to use minutes and seconds. No, they use cycles and megacycles. And this just sounded so right to me. And I'm going to try to justify why I think it sounded right, beyond just the nostalgia and the love that I bear for the series. And I think it is because you can see that the phrase is rooted in something that makes sense for the Transformers themselves, because they are a highly technological people, being in fact capable of space travel and all manner of things beyond being robots. And so it is easy to understand that coming to this new world, they would use measurements that are based around observations of the stars, the movement of the planet around the sun, the movement of the moon around the planet, cycles. And you don't have to understand exactly which correlates to seconds, which correlates to minutes or hours or days, but the phrasing is just evocative enough that it keeps you in the world. It doesn't pull you out and make you hear, robot minutes, gotcha, yeah, No, you hear them discussing measurements of time because they are carrying out military operations and things need to take place at, certain numbers of cycles. We'll meet here and carry out this attack and things like that. It is necessary for the storytelling, but it is just coded enough in a reasonable explanation and understanding of why they would use this phrase that it is a beautiful addition to the story rather than a detriment. And so, while it is certainly possible for you in your endeavor to write a fantasy or a sci-fi story to use some sort of a word that has a, little to no perhaps direct meaning but just sounds good to you. And I will use an overly ridiculous word here just to drive home the point. Let's say that your characters are saying, we will meet in 5 Glomdors, or is at this little hole in the wall for drinks. It's like, obviously that sounds ridiculous. But while you could do something like that, I personally find it difficult to try to piece together some collection of syllables that sounds plausible. I like to have a link, a rationale, both because I feel like it makes it more plausible for other people, and it's in a strange way less work for me because I can delve into the research rather than connecting syllables and hoping that the end result is good. And so what I would suggest is that you look at themes that are important to the culture, the race, or the civilization of your story, and what they might use to describe time. Perhaps movements of the tide or of the stars. Or even if you want something simpler in this same vein, you could use nautical time, bells, we will meet at 5 bells, because here it is still describing a striking of time, a measurement of time. But by using the term bells, it is instantly connecting to something in the world, because it is perfectly plausible that elves could use bells to mark time, but it just feels strange that they would use minutes and seconds. Not impossible, mind you, just strange. So I think that that could be a wonderful compromise and way to get by this problem in your story. Yeah. Again, it's such a small detail, but it's strange how these small details really can elevate a story or create just that little stumbling block. And it's something that, we want to try to have things go smoothly, and you hate to have, wonderful names for your characters and grandiose plots, and then someone says, you're 5 minutes late for work. I don't know, it just somehow can take you out of the moment. It can be sort of a penny in the pocket, which is an expression that I use, which is a reference to a Christopher Reeve movie where he travels back in time by imagining himself in the past, and he dresses up in old-fashioned clothes. Hi, Socks. This is Socks. Hello. Yeah, you want to get on the desk? I'm trying to wrap up the video. It's a good sweetheart. Yeah, you're so pretty. But he goes back in time by dressing up in old clothes, and so imagines himself in the past that he manages to somehow go there. But the spell ends up getting broken when he reaches into his pocket and finds a penny with the modern date on it, with the date from the time and place where he was before he went to the past. And that snaps him back to the present moment and sort of breaks the spell. And that's what I feel can happen with some of these little pod change. Sorry, diabetes. What can happen with some of these expressions. It's just that little thing that pulls you out of the moment. It not necessarily breaks, but puts a crack in your willing suspension of disbelief. And you want to keep that willing suspension of disbelief nice and strong, at least when it comes to silly things like this, so that you can have the luxury of bending it horrifically when it comes to other things like your hero surviving explosions, or the plausibility of capes not getting in the way, things like that. But anyway, this was a simple topic, less edited video, but something that I'd want to talk about for a long time. And I am trying to get back into these videos, more vigorously and put them out more frequently, even if it means that some will be less edited or less well thought out. As always, thank you so much for watching. Come on, pod. I'll take care of you in a minute. I've got a cat asking me for food. I've got an insulin pod that needs to be changed for the days when I would edit all this out. As I say, thank you so much for watching, for supporting, for being patient, and I deeply appreciate it, and I deeply appreciate you. Oh, it's a crazy world right now, but anytime we can find joy in something, that's a beautiful thing, and that's why I decided I need to get back to making these. So, in conclusion, thank you so much for watching. As always, I hope that this video has been in some way informative, or at the very least, a pleasant diversion. Until next time.